Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelove and this is Speedplay Netherlands number 15. So we are doing fairly well at the moment. We are integrating Knoch. We don't have a coalition against us at this very moment. What we're going to do is fabricate claims on basically everyone that we don't have a truce with or who our truce is about to end against. And we'll just fabricate these claims. We're going to build up a new army in a moment. We have a bit of colonization to do. Ultimately, we're in a pretty good spot to just keep going forward with what we've been doing. We do start building up that new army with a slightly different configuration. Once again, still just entirely mercenary infantry. And once we get this army together in just a moment, we're probably going to send it overseas. It's a bit of a shift from what we've been doing with our armies so far. But we still have a rebellion in Africa, in our one African province, not in the Cape. So we're going to have to go send our army down to deal with that. We're probably going to, once we retake the province, destroy the building that's already on it and build a fort. Just because it's been a few times now where the province has been occupied, and it's just becoming a bit of a hassle and kind of a strain on resources to take back. So with that said, we go ahead and we just build a level 3 fort, as really it's the best investment and I want it to be able to hold out as long as possible. We build another army, same deal with the mercenary infantry, as that's been working out fairly alright for us so far. We have had a bit of an issue with our army not really being able to stand up to other European powers, but for this next war we're going to fight, it'll just be against a few miners. So it really doesn't need to be that powerful. In fact, it was probably a bit excessive to get what we have already. And we send that one African army over to India, where we're going to get a small foothold, as we do have a new mission, ultimately to take a certain province in India. We'll see how that ends up going, as we will probably need to redirect forces back to Europe in the near future, as I imagine we're just in a bit of a lull between coalition wars at this point. Realistically, we'll have to focus on Europe until Bohemia and maybe Austria are destroyed. Maybe we'll be able to culture swap to German and then form Germany. I'm not entirely certain where we're going to end up going with that. The main thing, though, is we cannot be pushed back. So as long as we don't lose any wars, we're going to be in a good spot. And we're consistently making progress. We already peaced out with one of these countries. For whatever reason, we didn't get that one province that I was hoping we would get in this peace deal. That doesn't matter all that much. It's just a minor setback, maybe a couple years at most. We do declare war in India, and we'll just take over this one province minor. We do go ahead and split our force up a bit so we can get a leader with a better siege. And depending on the situation in Europe, we may end up just directly going into India with that 20 stack. Although that might not be enough forces to win a land war in India, and I don't really want to split our forces up while we have such a powerful threat in Europe. So what we'll probably do, we'll go ahead and make this peace deal, and we'll leave our army there for now. We do get a new trader, which I would like to keep in Ceylon as we expand our presence there, but since we don't have it cored, we don't actually have the range to do that. Ultimately, we'll go ahead and just declare this new war. It may bring in Bohemia, in fact it almost is guaranteed to. We build another army just to get us up to 80,000, and we declare this war. Now, Bohemia is a bit of a threat, and they do just send in one massive force immediately, and by the looks of it, it is not going well for us. We do lose the battle. We send reinforcements in, but they lose the battle too, and we call in the French because that was just so much of a disaster. I'm not entirely certain what it is about the French armies that makes them just significantly better than our own, but they definitely do turn the tides. And with that said and done, we can go ahead and just start cleaning up the smaller forces left behind. And we do manage to fully integrate Knoch. That is now done. We are ready to go. We have so many more open diplomatic slots now, and we have the entire British Isles completely under our direct control, which is just fantastic. The French do end up losing a battle. We fall back a bit. The French do have extra armies, though, so it's not like that's going to be the end of the world. And realistically, that's going to be a very legitimate concern in the future, is why is it that our armies are underperforming compared to the Bohemians and the French and the Austrians? So long as we have one powerful ally with us at any given war, it doesn't really matter that we're underperforming, as we can just kind of form auxiliary roles. For example, we're committing to most of the sieges, we're taking over most of the lands, the French armies are just basically being used as a bludgeon. And whenever our armies are used, it just doesn't go very well. That's a very legitimate concern. If we do get stuck in a war on our own, it'll probably be a massive problem. Not least of which because we don't really have that much manpower, so if the mercenaries do end up being more or less cut off or run out, as we are pretty much out of mercenaries right now, if we didn't have the French to back us up, this would probably be a tremendous problem. We do win that battle with the slight help of the French, and we are pressing forward quite significantly. It's just a bit concerning is all. We do go ahead and get 2 provinces, 2 with forts, which is a very major point, as we can just swarm forward on their provinces that don't have forts. We build a few extra mercenaries and get them set back up into this army, and hopefully we'll be able to make peace with Bohemia in the near future. Now, it's a bit awkward, the situation on the French border with those lands, so we might just go ahead and get lands from Bohemia in the peace deal with the war leader, as the Bohemians are pretty interested in keeping the war going. Scandinavia just called us into a war against Austria, but I really don't want to help them and be reliant on their peace deal in the end. Unfortunately, the Austrians rush up and just attack one of our armies, and I take a look and decide that it's easier to just evacuate away from that than reinforce it and hope for the best. So we are going to go ahead and make a pretty quick peace deal with Bohemia and their allies, taking basically just whatever we can. We get a slight move further to the east with our northern border, and we're going to just go ahead and create another army, just everything that we can get together, and we're going to pull our forces back from India back over to Europe, as this is definitely going to be the major conflict zone in the future. We really can't afford to have any imperial endeavors right now. Now, admittedly, because we're in an independent war and we do start moving that Indian army over now, since we are in an independent war, we also, while we don't have to wait for Scandinavia to make peace, we also have to fight to a draw on our own. So it's a bit more real. We have to worry about them taking lands from us. We do go ahead and just attack with significant force, however it doesn't work and we have to fall back. So, since we can't directly defeat these armies, what we're probably going to do is go ahead and attack all of Austria's allies first and attempt to get them out of the war. So long as we're able to get all of Austria's support out of the war, we may be able to just peace out with Austria alone. However, with this massive Teutonic army backing the Austrians up, we are not in anything resembling a good position. And since we did declare our own separate war, they can just take lands directly from us, which makes it a tremendous problem that we're losing. And we accidentally march our army into their path, and it's stack wiped. I considered briefly a counterattack, however, there are just too many hostile forces nearby. Even if we could begin to win the initial battle, it would just turn against us. So we do go ahead, we split our armies over into the Teutonic Order, and we just start sieging them out. They make up, not the majority, but a very large portion of the troops currently sieging our homeland. And while that's a tremendous problem, if we can just siege their homeland out first, we can make peace with them, and then the Austrians will be much weaker. We do beat a Livonian army, so I guess our armies aren't terrible, they're just not quite up to par with the major powers. That isn't great news, but there's definitely worse news that could be had. So we do go ahead and start attacking the Livonian Order. We do have a bit of a hassle just with moving our armies around the forts, and ultimately, since they're not really reinforcing, it's just going to be a race against time with our armies trying to siege out the Livonian Order. We nearly lost that battle, but we did win it. with our armies attempting to siege out the Livonians and the Teutons before we are sieged out ourselves. And it looks as though it's going to work at least all right. We do still have Great Britain, which is a pretty great asset to have in these sorts of wars. We do destroy a Teutonic navy, and we just make peace with them taking over 3 provinces. There's really no reason to take those provinces, but there's also no reason to avoid it. We did just go out and make the trouble of actually sieging their country, so we may as well have, gotten something out of it. We may also take the islands of the Livonian Order. Just another little something to make this war worth it. I don't really want anything from Austria, which is good because it doesn't look like we're in a position to get it, whatever it would have been. So what we're going to do is, instead of fighting for our homeland directly, we're just going to beeline to Austria proper, siege all of its Hungarian provinces, and eventually make it to Vienna. We will also get a small army in our homeland, and the game is just going to be avoid the Austrian armies that will kill all of our men. And as long as we pull that off, we should hopefully be able to make an alright peace deal. Unfortunately, Portugal has taken this opportunity and our distraction to siege out all of England, which doesn't do any favors to our war score, and is quite frankly just a terrible, terrible hassle. Ideally, we'd be able to get Portugal out of the war, but probably not without giving them concessions, and I just don't want to do that. Now, there are quite a few significant Austrian armies in the area. They are attacking us, however, we do win that battle, and reinforcements of theirs arrive after they lost, and they lose the subsequent engagement. We go ahead and attack Portugal proper, and begin pressing west towards Vienna. Now, the Austrian armies appear to have more or less disappeared, so we're able to just siege on both fronts. However, you see that there is now an increase in activity in Austria itself, but we can probably take out this one army, which we do go ahead and do so. Unfortunately, the massive Austrian army we'd been trying to avoid attacks us up in the north, so we just make a white peace and get out of there more or less scot-free. Now, was that worth it to avoid the Scandinavian War? Well, they're still in a war. We were able to get 4 provinces we wouldn't have otherwise. There are a few rebellions, but we have enough forces to deal with that. We don't really have all that much money left, and one of our vassals has started to get independent ideas, or the ideas of independence, so that's not great. Our situation isn't great. We were able to get that war concluded swiftly, though. That is the most important thing. That was taken care of. We did make a few gains. Ultimately, we're in an alright position to call in an ally and win the next war. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.